Ahlan wa sahlan. Right now we're going to talk about the marfu'a case in Arabic that we use for nouns in certain circumstances. Marfu'a is sometimes rendered in English as the nominative case. So if you have studied an inflected language with case endings and that helps you out, good for you. Nominative or marfu'a is kind of a default setting in a lot of cases. If we don't have any other grammar prior to a noun in a sentence that makes it something other than marfu'a, it's marfu'a. Some specific examples of when we typically use marfu'a in a sentence are in a jumla ismiya, a nominative sentence. Both the mubtada and the khabar are often marfu'a unless there's another element that makes things more complicated. In a jumla fa'aliya, a verbal sentence, the subject of the verb, the fa'il, will typically be marfu'a. In a sentence with kana or one of its sisters, the subject of kana or ism kana, or the subject of whatever other verb in that family, will also be marfu'a. Again, that's kind of like a subject, a mubtada. Same idea. And in a sentence with inna or one of its sisters, the khabar of inna is marfu'a. It's sort of a reversal of the situation of ism kana. And we have videos on those two subjects as well as videos on verbal sentences and nominative sentences that you can go and check out if you need a refresher. So to mark marfu'a in a sentence on a singular noun, we'll typically use dhamma. So on a definite noun, I would say al-kitab. I would add a dhamma there, so I would pronounce it al-kitabu. Or if I were referring to an indefinite book, it would take two dhammas, which sometimes people write as kind of one amalgamated squiggle. Kitabun. Or kitabun. Sometimes computer fonts will only give you one or the other of these visual options, but there's absolutely no difference between them. They both represent tanween, that addition of a noon sound. So we get un at the end. If we are manipulating a plural that takes regular endings, we're going to use waw noon at the end. Like if we were talking about a single employee, we would say muwazzaf. And then if we were talking about multiple employees and the word in the sentence was marfu'a, we would say muwazzafun, as opposed to muwazzafin, the ending that we would use for mansub and majroor, are other options. So let's look at some examples. If we want to say, to start with a very simple sentence, he is a good student. Huwa talib jayyid. This is what we would see in a normal text that wasn't completely vocalized. But if we wanted to vocalize the entire thing, huwa would be our mubtada, and typically pronouns like that don't take any case endings. So huwa would stay the way it is, but he is a good student. Talib jayyid, it's indefinite, so both the noun and the adjective are going to take tanween. Huwa talibun jayyidun is how we would read all of those words, completely vocalized. Or if we wanted to say, the employees came to the party, we could say it this way. جاء الموظفون إلى الحفلة. Here, الموظفون is the فاعل, the subject of this verb. Because the verb comes first, we conjugate it in the singular as though it were for huwa and not hum. We could reverse the order. Instead of having a verbal sentence, we would then have a nominative sentence with the khabar as a verb and then say الموظفون جاءوا إلى الحفلة. Either way, الموظفون is the fa'il, the subject, the doer of the verb. So it's going to be marfu'a. Notice that حفلة, الحفلة, because it's after a preposition, is actually going to be majroor with a kasra. Another example, we could say, I think that they are Saudi engineers. Here we have to remember that we have a particle anna, which is a sister of inna. أظن أنهم مهندسون سعوديون. Here, because this phrase, this noun and adjective, are the khabar of anna, they are marfu'a. This would be the ism anna. And because it's an attached pronoun, again, it's not going to take any sort of case endings. أظن أنهم مهندسون سعوديون. Or, I just dropped my chalk, so you might say, the professor is not excellent based on his chalk handling skills. So you could say, ليس الأستاذ ممتاز. And al-ustadh, because it is the ism of laysa, would be marfu'a. ليس الأستاذ ممتازا. This would be the khabar of laysa, so it would have to be mansoob. We would need a different ending there. You can go check out the video on mansoob if you want to see more about those examples. As you can see, it's very difficult to say much of anything without straying from marfu'a into other cases. There are objects of verbs everywhere, there are prepositions everywhere, there are idafat everywhere. So although marfu'a is the default, there are a whole lot of scenarios that sort of demand that we switch to another case after a preposition here, or because we have laysa and we have the khabar laysa, so it has to be mansoob. So while the marfu'a can be kind of a beginning point, always keep your eyes open for the other two case endings that you might need, because in reality you're going to see them most of the time, even though marfu'a is kind of your starting point.